All right, everyone. I have Dana Grinnell here for the Empowered in Health podcast.
Oh,
I am so excited you're here, Dana. Thank you for your time.
thank you for having me. I love doing things like this. So thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, of course. You guys, Dana is a mom of three. She has an incredible passion for teaching women, families, communities about the power of reducing toxins in our life, right? Like really understanding the power of cleaning up our products, cleaning up what we're utilizing inside our homes, and really making sure that we're looking at health from the inside out. So, Dana, I would love for you to kind of jump right in, tell us a little bit about who you are, your personal story, and just kind of how you got started on this journey of this passion for inside out wellness and toxicity and things like that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so my kind of the bulk of my career I spent in healthcare. I was in medical devices and I worked for a huge corporation. But as part of that, I spent a lot of time in hospitals and going in and out of hospitals. The line of work I worked in wasn't necessarily related to toxins or that kind of those kind of illnesses, but I just saw so many sick people. And you'd see the 32-year-old triathlete who was battling cancer. You'd see, 40 somethings with autoimmune disorders. And it started to like kind of all add up in my mind. I'm like, what is this all about? Like, this couldn't just be, you know, genetic or bad luck. Like there's got
Right.
to be things contributing to this. And so I just became really passionate about keeping myself safe, as well as at the time I was starting to have children and making sure that I had safe pregnancies and, we're raising these little creatures as safely as possible.
Right. Right. I would love for you to kind of share with that background and where you are today. Talk a little bit about your business right now and kind of what pushed you into your business and everything that you've created up to this point.
Yeah, well, so like I said, I was really concerned about myself and my family, and was into clean beauty before it was a thing. Like really tried to limit the toxins and clean products and that type of thing. Well, fast forward a decade and a half, I had left my role in healthcare and was, onto other things. And I've always kind of loved being an entrepreneur and
Yeah.
starting businesses and starting things.
Right.
And that I was kind of in this pivotal moment of like, what's next with my career? Coming home from a routine trip to Costco, and I'm sure many of you can relate to that. And my laundry detergent leaked all over the back of the car. And it was, I kind of knew that it wasn't, if you run it at Costco, it's probably not the cleanest laundry detergent on the planet,
Right.
but it was as good as I could find. We have, I have three kids, ages ranging toddler through teen. We are mountain bikers, hikers, skiers, all the things. And it leaked and turned this crazy, I call it radioactive purple. It went from
Yeah.
clear, which was kind of free and clear, to this crazy purple color. And I'm like, gosh, that was clearly a chemical reaction.
Wow.
I need to do a little work on this product. So of course I went and looked up the ingredients, and it was like awful, like glaring red, an EWG, the
Yeah.
worst reading they have.
Yeah.
And mind you, it said number one dermatologist recommended, free and clear, fragrance free, all these things.
Yep.
I'm like, gosh, I am so diligent and so careful. How did this happen to me? And if this is happening to me, it's clearly happening to other people who care as much as I do. And it's definitely happening to people who don't have the same level of knowledge or
Right.
diligence in looking at products. And
Mhm.
so, like, what if I, create something where people can go and be like the trusted source for finding products that eliminate all these awful ingredients?
Yeah, I love that story because you're speaking straight into my heart, right? As a mom who's trying to figure out like how do I clean up our products? How do I clean up our home? I just don't always really know because of what's on the labels, right? Because of
Yeah.
what's on, the things that are marketed. And so I love that you are doing this work to really not only bring products into one place where people can safely shop, but you're also really working on this educational component of helping other people understand what do you need to be looking for? What are the ingredients that you need to be paying attention to? So I'd love for you to kind of talk a little bit about that. This laundry detergent example is awesome. As far as other kinds of main product swaps or things that women and families can be thinking about, like what are the main products that you would recommend paying attention to in your home or swapping in your home?
Yeah, it's such a good question because it is completely overwhelming.
Yeah.
And even now that I've made, kind of this passion that I developed over the years of working in healthcare, I've kind of made it my job. it's still overwhelming. And there's no way you can ever know everything
Right.
about what to avoid and what ingredients do to your health. I mean, just for an example, on EWG, they have a off limits list, and then they have a restricted list. And both of those lists are like 700 plus pages. And
Wow.
I'm talking like 10-point font. You know, this
Wow.
isn't
Oh my goodness.
just like, there's no matter who you are, unless you're like, unless you have a photographic memory and you're a chemist, like, I don't think you could possibly know all the ingredients. So when it comes to just swaps, thinking about your home, I kind of start with things that are most directly impact your body. So air quality is huge. The EPA declared that indoor air quality is one of the biggest health hazards in our modern day society.
Wow.
Energy efficient homes, what they've done is actually limit the ventilation. So it's good from an energy efficiency perspective, but maybe not so good for your health. So looking at your air quality, make sure you're changing your furnace filters, ventilating when you can, keeping air fans going. These lovely, I actually have one in the background here, not on purpose, but air purifying plants are actually a great way to purify your air, and you can have those in bedrooms and spaces you spend a lot of time in. So air is like is huge. Water is another one to think about. EWG actually has a really great tap water database. If you just go to ewg.org, search for their tap water database, you can type in your zip code and identify the contaminants in your water. And even if you think, we live in Park City and everyone
Yeah.
thinks our water is so clean, and dating back to all the mining, and we actually have a lot of contaminants in our water. So even if you live in the mountains or in a rural place, your water could be contaminated. And then
Yeah.
you just want to make sure whatever way you filter your water is addressing those contaminants. That's the key.
Right.
You don't necessarily need the fanciest filter as long as it's filtering out the contaminants in your water.
Got it. Good to
That's
know.
huge. And then when it comes to products, you know, again, like thinking about all the products you use on a day-to-day basis, it can be super overwhelming, and it can also start to feel expensive if you're just gonna start swapping everything out. So think about the things that come in contact with like food surfaces. That's a really good place to start. You obviously don't want to use, like, I'll just say that some of the disinfecting wipes that we all
Yeah.
were like very familiar with during COVID, there's
Yeah.
actually a little warning on the label that says do not use on a food surface. People
Wow.
probably don't read that little warning. Well, that's just that's telling you that there's ingredients in there that are not good for you. And if you
Right.
touch food and it goes into your body, it's not gonna be good. So looking at food services, and then also, I mean, we all know our largest organ is your skin. And so looking at things that you like, if you lather yourself in lotion, if you live in a really dry climate like we do, let's just, make sure that that product is safe. So starting with things that most directly come in contact with your body
I
is a
love
good
that.
start. And
Yeah.
maybe
Good place to
pull,
start.
pull one or two of those things. I mean, you don't have to, Rome wasn't built in a day. So just take one or two of those little pearls and see how you're doing at home.
Yeah, I love that. And such good advice because you're right. Like it really does feel like a lot.
Mm.
And so those are even really powerful things for me to think about inside our own home. Like we've made small swaps on the product side, but even some of the more general things like air quality and water, like those are things that I know that I want to continue to explore. So I super appreciate you kind of just bringing that perspective and sharing, where are these things you can think about inside your home and really inside your lifestyle, from a day-to-day standpoint.
Yeah, for sure.
Dana, that kind of brings me to my next question, which is kind of more ingredient focused. I know we talked a little bit about product focus. And I love that you keep referencing EWG because that's one of the resources I love. And I'd love for you to kind of maybe share other things that you maybe use to kind of cross check and look for ingredients. But are there main ingredients or main things inside products or foods, et cetera, that you would say, get this out, right? Really start to remove this as soon as possible?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I mentioned the extensive, there's 90,000 chemicals that were created and put in our products,
Wow.
and 1,000, it's predicted that there's 1,000 new chemicals a year. So it's impossible to try to keep up with them. And and by the way, there'll be certain things that have 10 different iterations of the way it's, spelled out on an ingredient label. And also you have to worry about two ingredients. If they're in there together, they can actually cause another ingredient. So my point is to try to memorize all these ingredients is impossible. So
Right.
don't try.
Yeah.
What I would say in terms of ingredients is there's a couple categories that if you eliminate those, you're like 90% of the way there.
Okay.
The first one is pesticides. Obviously, those were created to kill pests. Well, that doesn't discriminate between pests and our bodies. So if you can buy organic whenever possible, just really try to, if you're a gardener, if you have flowers, if you have people that come and take care of your yard and your kids are going out there and rolling around in the grass, like make sure what they're using is safe. And there's plenty of safe alternatives to the really toxic chemical pesticides. So look, think about that. The second one, and this one I think could potentially be a difficult one for a lot of people, is fragrance.
Yeah.
And when I say fragrance, you don't have to eliminate beautiful scent from your life. If you love to burn candles, if you love to, lather yourself in lotion that smells nice, you like your hair smelling nice, you don't have to eliminate scent. So when I say fragrance, it's different than a scent. But fragrance is, thousands of chemicals are created in a cocktail to produce different scents, and most of them are highly toxic.
Yeah.
So you look at laundry detergents. I've even had people tell me, like, once they start using clean dish pods, they can't go back to the old ones because it tastes weird, like their food tastes weird. And you may not know that if you've been using it for decades. But if you just, anything that says fragrance on it, don't buy it. I've even found, like, of course, I source a lot of products. That's sort of, the really fun part of my job. And I found this really cool deodorant line, and comes in these really cool packaging. It's refillable, like from an eco-friendly perspective, it's great. There's like 5 ingredients, and the 6th one is fragrance. And
Oh man.
like,
No.
yeah, they just put, natural scent or make it unscented. So fragrance is huge. And then the final one I would say, and I'm trying to keep this really simple, if you just avoid these 3 things, you're doing really well. Plastics. And when I say plastics, I'm kind of pushing beyond Tupperware and plastic water bottles. Those are sort of obvious. And you're listening to this podcast, you clearly care a lot about your health. You've probably seen, the warnings against nanoplastics and all the things. But what I'm talking about is like the hidden plastics. So for example, the laundry sheets are pretty popular right now. Well, those have a plastic component in it. So you're actually putting, plastic into your laundry that's going into your clothes and then ultimately into waterways. So that's, and things like aluminum cans, they're lined. Anytime you have aluminum, it's going to be lined with a plastic. And so you're directly like drinking that, or if it's a can of beans or whatever, even if it says BPA free, there are other types of bisphenols that can be in there. So the more you can kind of, go to the bulk section of your grocery store, try to buy more whole foods, just trying to reduce plastics. It's impossible to completely reduce plastics, I think. Even the zero waste people I've talked to and read about, even they have plastic in their world. So it's more about like trying to, reduce the plastics that come in contact with your body or that you're ingesting.
Right. Gosh, that's fascinating. Just things that I'm just not even aware of either. And I feel like no matter what on this topic, you just learn a little bit more every single day about what's really in our products, what's really in our food, and just things we need to kind of slowly start to pay more attention to. So I cannot thank you enough for your knowledge, Dana. Like it's incredible. And it's something that I really want to continue to connect more women and families to, because this is really our inside out health, which is something I am super passionate about, as you know. So I'd love to kind of jump in a little bit to this concept and this topic of endocrine disruption. One of the things that we connected on in the beginning of kind of talking about, working together and supporting each other in our businesses was this idea of like, how do we really talk about inside out wellness from a product and ingredient standpoint, all the way to a lifestyle standpoint and the habits that we're implementing into our day-to-days. And so endocrine disruption and this topic is super interesting, especially for us as females. And we don't always really understand like the ramifications of what things like our products can really do to our overall inside health and our endocrine system. So I'd love for you to kind of talk a little bit about your knowledge around, removing endocrine disrupting chemicals and kind of what that means for us as females and why it's important.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think, as women, females, I guess, you're always in a state of hormone change for the most part, right? You're either a tween heading into puberty, you're, in puberty, you're just out of puberty and maybe you're into your childbearing years. Maybe you're pregnant, maybe you're breastfeeding, maybe you're postpartum, maybe you're perimenopausal or menopausal. I mean,
Right.
you're always there's no like one time where it really is important to focus on it. I think it's always important to focus on it.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I would say is it's like these chemicals and this environmental assault that our bodies are on all the time. They're kind of silent killers. I
Yeah.
mean, in my mind, they're huge. It's a massive concern and issue that we need to care about. But yet, if someone gets diagnosed with breast cancer, they're never going to say, you know what, I bet you anything it was the Glade plugin that I have in my bedroom. Like
Right.
they're never going to identify that as the cause.
Right.
So I think sometimes they kind of get shoved under the rug and it's an easy thing to ignore because it's too hard to tease out the one silver bullet that caused cancer or caused this autoimmune condition or
Right.
whatever it may be. So
Yep.
I think my first piece of advice on that is like, don't ignore it. But also don't get overwhelmed by it, right? Like stress is not good for our endocrine system either. So picking away at things that are kind of low friction points for you is a really good start. Like if you love the scent of your laundry, okay, fine. But maybe like ditch the dryer sheets. Those
Right.
are made of plastic. Those have toxic chemicals in them. Maybe just substitute wool balls with some essential oil drops. You
Right.
can do that. It's a really easy swap, low friction point. You're still getting your scent. So that's, I don't know, I think just being aware that this constant assault is what's causing a lot of these conditions.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is and I collaborate, and her actually, Elizabeth with
Yeah.
Optimize the Inside, Erin. She's awesome. Her
Yes.
business is great. A little plug for Optimize the Inside.
Yes,
Her
totally.
business is she will come into your home and help you identify these key triggers and how to like just make your life a little healthier.
Yeah.
But one of the things she talks about, which I think makes so much sense, is it's about the chemical load. Like your body can only handle so much, right? And if you work if you're, in the landscaping business and you got a chemical, at work, and then you're also going home and you have, petroleum candles burning and you have Glade plugins and your laundries. So it's sometimes it's not about the one thing, it's about like the assault of all of it.
Yeah.
So the more you can kind of whittle away at that, that's going to definitely benefit your endocrine system and reduce some of these hormonal imbalances and, hormone triggered issues that we have.
Yeah. I love how you just kind of explained the load. And I love that Elizabeth shares that too, because that really is what it comes down to, is this like compilation of so many things. And as we're loading them up, that really does wreak havoc on our body. So I love kind of chipping away at that and keeping that mindset. It's just a powerful way to really think through this idea of slowly making those swaps.
Well, the other
Um,
thing I would add from a health perspective, and this might get some people's attention,
yeah.
maybe more so than things like cancer, because cancer doesn't feel real unless you're the one getting diagnosed.
Yeah.
It's kind of a crazy, scary thing you kind of don't put in your mindset. But eczema, acne, obesity, weight gain. There's a thing called obesogens that are produced by a lot of these toxic chemicals and products. And so if you have a trouble losing that 5 to 10 pounds or 20 or 30, maybe start to look at those products and how you can swap out and bring in less toxic products. So it's not just the big scary health issues, but it's also these little annoying health issues
Yeah.
that really affect us on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that's so important to remember. And something that I just appreciated from learning more about from people like you and from people that are really doing this work to understand how do we educate about what's really inside our society. And so again, I super appreciate you, Dana. I'd love for you to share more about Free Living Co., your business, what you do,
Yeah,
what you offer, like, and just a little bit more so people can learn how to kind of get connected to the work you do.
absolutely. Yeah. So you heard my passion and kind of how I got to where I'm at. What we aim for with the marketplace is that we find the cleanest products we can find in every category that work.
Yeah.
So we test everything. I have toddler through teens. We have a dog. We live in the mountains. I mean, we've tested things like as we put them through the toughest tests that we could possibly find. Because what I really it disheartens me to hear people, well, I tried this one natural product and it just didn't work. I'm
Right.
going to go back to the toxic. I'm going to go back to Clorox and, these things that are just so toxic. And it's like, well, did you try the right natural product is my
Right.
question. So we really try to have the cleanest products on the market. We lean on EWG verified. We lean on Made Safe is actually probably the strictest certification program out there. So a lot of our products are Made Safe certified or EWG verified, or I will verify them myself if they're a local smaller producer. And I work with Elizabeth in that too. She has a lot of great relationships and has helped curate a lot of the products in the store. So you can shop online and know that everything we carry is safe for human use. All the ingredients, have been verified. And then we deliver in a consolidated manner. So rather than drop shipping from the companies themselves, where you get 10 boxes a month, you can order everything from laundry detergent to lip gloss to deodorant to kid shower gel, and it'll come in one box. And then locally here in Park City, of course, we deliver. I feel like it must be how a florist feels when they're delivering flowers. That's how I feel when I deliver clean. I do a lot of the deliveries myself because
I
it just
love
makes
it.
me feeling like we're bringing, in helping homes be healthier and also less hassle, right?
Yeah, I love that. And that's been one of the things I've loved. Like just that personal touch inside your business is so powerful, so cool. And I do want to share this because I did kind of share it out on social last week, but I also have shared it out in emails inside my email list that Dana offers like a really awesome shipping opportunity for anybody that's all over the US. She also just went international. And it's really competitive, really fair. And it absolutely is competitive in the sense of like timing of shipping, right? So like I actually did a test this week where I looked at how long and what would the price be related to some of the bigger stores according to and Dana's store, and Dana beat all that, right, on pricing and shipping. And so I want to make sure that I'm sharing that because oftentimes we kind of can default into, well, this is the fastest, even if I have to pay more I can get it quicker, and that's not really the case, especially with Dana's shop too. So I want to make sure that you guys know that as well.
I didn't know you were doing that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yes.
we stock everything. And so as long as I have it in stock, it ships out same day if it's a business day. Even on the weekends, oftentimes I can deliver, get things in your hands. So yeah, there's obviously the big, huge behemoth out there, and I know it's
Yeah.
tempting. I order from there when I need to, but it's also, hopefully we always put little notes, and a lot of times we put free samples in, and we try to
Yeah.
make it more personal, a better user experience
Yeah.
for customers.
And the power of small business. Small business is so special, so special.
Definitely.
Dana, really quickly, kind of before we start to wrap it up, I'd love for you to kind of speak to the person that's maybe listening to this who feels a little bit overwhelmed on like, I love the information, I love learning more about, products and ingredients that I should be cleaning up, but how do I start? Where do I start? Do I pick a room? I know we talked a little bit about this in the beginning of our interview, but I'd love for you to really speak to that person that loves the information but still feels overwhelmed. What do they do? How do they take action?
Yeah, no, that's such a great question. And I think it is one of the biggest hurdles and just getting over that first. So I would say start, I talked earlier about the points of least friction.
Right.
So what's a product you're using that you really wouldn't mind using really anything in that category? Maybe
Right.
it's dish pods. Dish pods is actually one of my top categories that people like to start with. And then that
Yeah.
usually leads to counter spray and dish soap and other things. So think about that. Also, I actually went through a very dramatic, like I purged all of my makeup and beauty stuff. This is like a decade ago. And then I was like, okay, now I have nothing. And now I
Yeah.
have to over. It's like very expensive. And like, look at all that waste going into a landfill.
Yeah.
So maybe don't take that approach. Maybe just, I call it the last squirt, last pump.
Yeah.
So as you use up your face moisturizer, like look at it. Maybe it's okay. Look at EWG. You can actually pull up. They've evaluated a lot of products. Made Safe's evaluated a lot of products. You can look at those resources. I know there's other apps out there. Maybe it's okay and you can rebuy it. Maybe if it's not, then maybe that's when you make the swap. So just, being realistic.
Right.
And then the final two things, one product at a time works, right? Like tiny little steps that add up. If you just did one product at a time, I bet if you looked back a year later, you would realize like what a huge, so much progress that you've made in swapping out toxic products.
Yeah.
And then the final thing is just give yourself grace, right? it's like a very stressful, busy, crazy world. We all have so many demands, whether it's kids or work or just life, traumas, past traumas, whatever you were going through.
Yeah.
Don't add this to your worry
Right.
pool, right?
Right.
Make it fun, make it, baby steps matter. Like we talked about the chemical load. So if you're eliminating one product, that's reducing your chemical load. So be cool with that. Give yourself some grace. And please let us know how we can help. We're very active on social media. If you have questions or have certain posts you want us to put out there. Um, I love talking to clients.
Yeah.
So if you ever want to just chat or text, I am all for it.
I love that. And I also wanted to share that Dana has great starter kits on her website, right? So if maybe you want to target your laundry room or you want to target your bathroom, you want to target your kitchen a little bit more, like she has these recommended starter kits that simplify the thinking process of how do I start making swaps. So I want to make sure that you know that because she really has made this a very easy point of entry to start to kind of think about what do I want to clean up in my home and how do I do that? And then she gives you recommended products alongside that thought process. So definitely make sure you guys check out her website. I will make sure in the show notes of this podcast interview that you have all the details on how to connect with Dana on her website and how to connect with her on her social, etc. Dana, before we kind of wrap it up, these are two questions that I typically ask most of the people that come on my show, just because I am super passionate about Inside Out Wellness and mostly passionate about just mental health overall, right? Like really making sure that we're paying attention to some of those hidden things inside our Inside Out Wellness and nurturing ourselves from the inside out. So, one of the things I like to ask is when you're sharing your passion and when you're thinking about inside out health and you're talking about your story, why do you feel like sharing who you are and where you're coming from and what you love to do is so important for other people to hear?
Yeah, I think you have to see yourself, you have to see someone else's success before you're kind of willing to take that. It's almost like sharing each other's successes
Yeah.
and learning from each other. I mean, I love talking to women, especially like you, Erin. I know fitness is a really big part of what you do and diet and all the things. I love learning from what other people are doing and how it's working for them. Because then it kind of gives me this vision of, okay, well, it could work for me too.
Yeah.
So I think it's almost more important than sharing failures is sharing successes and like kind of bringing everyone along with you. I mean, that's to
Yeah.
me kind of what both you and I are trying to do is help women be healthier and have easy, resources to see that it's possible and that they can do it and it's not going to be as painful as they think.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true because when you see yourself in some capacity in someone else's story, it just gives you that permission to kind of go after whatever you might want to work towards or to understand that you're not the only one that maybe is experiencing something. So I love that perspective, Dana. Last question for you before we kind of wrap it up. In closing, this is something that I like to kind of focus in on too inside my interviews is when you think about the lifestyle that you're leading as a busy woman, as a busy mom, as a busy wife, what kind of mantra or mindset quote or something like that do you have in your mind that maybe helps encourage you to really focus on nurturing yourself inside the chaos of life? I'd love to hear if you have something that helps you kind of stay in that mindset.
Yeah, I know. It's funny because it has kind of come out of this business. But live free. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of it. It's a recent mantra, and it's come out of Free Living Co. It's kind of our hashtag. That's our whatever you want to call it, tagline.
Yeah.
To me, living free, it's not just living free from toxins. It's living free from worry, living free from self-doubt, living free from judgment, from, feeling judged, all the things that hinder you to live life fully and to
Yeah.
feel your best self all the time. So I would say live free. And I constantly remind myself of that, even if I'm on my mountain bike going down something a little scary or a little more technical, it's like, okay, relax, chill. You
Yeah.
got this,
Yeah. Yeah.
live free, like let it roll, let it fly.
I
So
love
we have
that.
actually, we have a little manifesto on the website that I wrote right as I was launching the company. And I every now and again go back and look at it to remind myself, my own mantra. It's kind of a mantra for the company, but it's also kind of a personal mantra. So check that out. But yeah, live free.
I love that. I'm adopting that too because it's so good. It's such a good, just simple reminder, like just free of all the things, like all the noise, right? That
Yeah.
doesn't actually end up serving you well. Dana, thank you so much for your time today. Before we kind of end our interview, would you quickly share how people can find you on social, email, internet, or I'm sorry, website, etc.?
Yeah, so our website is freelivingco.co. And our social tags are Free Living Co. I think Instagram's underscore Free Living Co.
Right.
My email and my phone number are on the website under contact us. If you ever want, I can text, I text a lot. I'm a quick responder. So feel free to text. Or I also have, if you're a local Park City person, you can actually set up a private appointment to come into the warehouse and shop. And I, help consult people on, products they want to start to change. And I can talk them through, the pros and cons of all of them. So that's all on our website.
Awesome. Dana, thank you so much. You guys make sure that you check out the
Thank
show
you.
notes too of this podcast for all of Dana's contact information, links to get connected, links to learn more on her website as well as on social. She is a wealth of knowledge. I can't wait for you to continue to dive into everything she shares through her business, Free Living Co., and so much more. Dana, thank you so much for your
Thank
time
you
today.
so much.
So incredibly
Thank
grateful
you.
for you.
I really appreciate it. No, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, like I said, I love doing this, and however I can help, please, don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. Sounds good, Dana. See you guys in the next one.